Hello and welcome. In this series of videos, I'm going to be showing you how to draw more realistically over in the Sketchbook app, and we are going to be using a reference photo for this mini project. I'm going to be using this photo here of a pair of cherries. You're welcome to use this photo along with me, or you can choose your own fruit, either from the references that I have provided to you over in Schoology, or finding your own image on the internet. Whatever you choose to use, just make sure that you have it downloaded into your iPad. You can take a screenshot of the image or download the image itself. Make sure it's in your camera roll before you begin this lesson. Okay, so to begin, we're going to click on this plus sign down at the bottom. And instead of clicking on New Sketch like we have in the past, we're actually going to click on New From Image. And we are going to then click on Import Photo. That's going to bring us over to our Photos app. And if I open this up, I'm going to find my reference photo is right here of my cherries. It's going to load it up in here, and you can see the pixels. Please make sure your pixels are like at least 500 and click Create. Now, it has opened up my workstation for us. And as you can see, my photograph is the bottom layer over here in my layers bar. Now remember, if you have something like that, click on that bottom area and you can see your layers. And the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a layer. We want to make sure that we're never going to draw on those cherries, right? Or our reference photo, we want to draw on a new layer so we can turn that off and just see our drawing. Okay. Now, the first thing that we're going to do, we're not going to use color right away. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our contour lines. We're going to turn this photograph into like a basic outline, like a cartoon or a contour line drawing. And then we will start to add our color. So this is part one, just the contour lines. Now, the first thing I want you to do after you get that layer is to come and choose a tool. I'm going to ask you to use either the technical pen or the fountain pen. Either one's fine. I'm going to use the technical pen. It's a little bit more skinny, I think, sometimes. And then I want to make sure my opacity is all the way up, and I want to check out my size. So I can move this around and see that little dot, but I can also just test it out. And I want to make sure I'm going to create outlines all the way around. I want it to be there, but not be too distracting. So I don't want it to be too thick. I'm going to bring that back and make this a little bit smaller and test that out, maybe even a little bit smaller, something like that. Okay, so now that I have my size, I do want this contour line image to stand out against the picture that I have. The picture I have here is mostly red, right, and then green. So I'm going to actually change my color. As you can see, black isn't really going to show up sometimes. I want this to stand out, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it blue. Remember, I can change the hue by pulling this around, and then I can change this part in here over to the corner to get blue. Okay, you can choose a different color. I wouldn't use red, I wouldn't use green, because we're going to use that in our composition. So now that I have my new layer and I have my tool set up, again, technical pen, and I want to make sure the size is nice and thin, and I have a color. Now I'm going to create my contour lines. Now we did this when we worked in the grid and we looked box by box by box, and it took a really long time, right? And it strengthened our eyes. Here we're going to take a shortcut and we're going to straight up trace. So we're going to come in here. I really suggest zooming in, and then we are going to carefully start to trace. That was weird. Carefully start to trace our image. So you saw like it didn't work for a little bit because of the pressure of my hand, right? Or like the tip of this stylus. I think it's more that. Trace this all the way around, noticing the highlights. And if you don't like something, go back and do it again. So I'm going to get the overall outline. Go back and do it again if you don't like it. Now these styluses that we have here, we have access to, are not that precise. So you can also use your finger. I typically use the Apple Pencil, but I want to make this as authentic as possible to your experience. So I'm using this stylus, which is something that you have. But my advice to you is to spend some time. This is your foundation, right? Make sure that you have something that you like. I'm going to turn off my photo so you can see. This is just my outline. We're not going to actually use this in our final product. It's just to help us guide ourselves. So I'm going to outline both cherries. I'm going to outline the stem, but I'm also going to outline any of my changes in color or value. So do you see here how we have a highlight there, right? I'm actually going to do that again because I see multiple things. I see the white here, and then I see that pink, right? So any change in value, do you see that? How it's brighter and then darker, and maybe that. And then in here, like it's really dark over there, that sort of thing. I see a little darkness there. Any line work can help, right? And then especially in here, do you see this? Right? The lights, oops, the lights and the darks happening here. Like that. Okay, so when I turn off my picture, you should be able to see that cherry, right? So I like to do this a lot. You're going to see me in my process turn off and on my reference, and it's like a little disco, right? A lot happens there, but what I'm doing is I'm staring straight ahead, and I'm like, okay, did I miss anything, right? What do I need to get? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the rest quickly here. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, and then we will talk about color, right? So we're just creating that outline. All right, so as you can see, I think that I have gotten all of my contour lines here, and it looks pretty good to me. If you wanted to, you can adjust any of your lines by using some of your erasers. Like this one here, do you see how that's a little pointy? And I don't think that shape is just as pointy. So I'm going to zoom in on that area, come down, find my eraser here, make sure it's the right size, and I can take out that line and then jump back to my tool, put that back, and I can draw in that line a little bit smoother. And I think that probably looks a little bit better, yeah. All right, so now we have these cartoon cherries. Make sure that you have all of this information in here of the changes in value or color that you see. If you look into the top, do you see how I have included the darks and the lights and some line work? Not too much, don't go crazy, but make sure that you have enough indication that when you turn off your picture, it still makes sense and nothing is missing.